What's up everyone, Ronix from Ronix Photography, and today we are going to be dealing about the best secrets to skin retouching and the best details and what you should know about skin retouching in Photoshop. And before I can go ahead, this image was taken by a photographer is called Fred Shortit, and this image was part of his retouching challenge a while back. So we're going to be dealing with this image and we're going to learn about the best tips and the best secrets to skin retouching in Photoshop. And this tutorial is about frequency separation, and we're also going to be learning about the amazing dodging and burning technique in Photoshop. So, and we are also going to color grade this very image in Photoshop. So let's kick in and we start uh, learning about these tips, tricks to skin retouching in Photoshop. So we're going to start by first of all defining frequency separation. What is frequency separation? Frequency separation basically is a retouching technique, a skin retouching technique, which divides an image or a photo into two. That is the high frequency that contains the textures, or the low frequency which contains the color and the skin tone. So basically that is what frequency separation is all about. So we're going to start by creating those two layers we have just talked about. So come to your background layer and drag right here, or you can click Command J or Control J twice to create two layers from your background layer. Then you're going to come to the middle layer. Remember, the very middle layer is usually the color, or some people prefer to call it the low frequency layer. And the upper layer, remember, texture skin textures are always on top of the image. So we're going to name this layer texture or high frequency layer. So that is basically what we are going to do. So we're going to start extracting the colors and the textures on these very layers. So let's see how to do that. So come to the eye icon and deactivate that. Then make sure you have selected the color or low frequency layer, and come to filter, then come to blur and come to Gaussian blur. So when you click on Gaussian blur, you get this little box right here. So you can just click here to zoom out and see the area that has more skin textures than the rest of the image. So you can see we're going to go with the forehead for this model. So we are going to start by moving this slider until we are seeing that the skin textures are out of the image, but we can still see these other details of the face, like the eyes, the nose, and the lips. So we're going to slide this until we are only seeing uh, no or less of the skin textures for this model. Remember, this very step is the step that determines your final results, or the skin texture that you are going to be remaining with for the rest of your image. So come and start moving this slider as you're seeing right here. So move the slider slowly until you see like you have blurred out the textures and you can no longer see these skin textures right here. So let's move this. I think we have done pretty a nice job. So we're going to click OK. So remember, now this layer we only have the colors and the skin tones, and we don't have textures. As you can see, the image kind of looks blurry, so that means we are on the right step. So click on your texture layer and activate it by clicking on the eye icon to bring back the visibility. Then come to image, then come to apply image. So when you come to apply image, this is you get this window right here. So remember, we are going to subtract the textures from this very layer. So we're going to come right here and select these textures. So we want to subtract or extract the textures from the color layer. So as usual, for the blending options, just come right here and drop down, and remember, we are subtracting the textures from as the color layer. So click on subtract. So when you click on subtract, you I know most of you guys for the very first time you won't be having these results right here. So come to scale and put 2, and come offset and put 128. So you'll get all your textures on this gray kind of layer. Remember, the reason as why it is gray is because we don't have colors and skin tones in this image. So you can see we only have textures on this image. So make sure the scale is 2, offset 128, and make sure preserve transparency is not checked and the mask is not checked or selected. Click OK. So you'll get your textures right here on this very layer. Then come to the blending and look for linear light. So click on linear light and you'll get back the image the way it was initially. So in order to see if at all we have done a nice job while creating our frequency separation layers, or while we are dividing the image, let's put these two layers in a group. Click Ctrl or Command to select the lower layer, and you can just drag and drop to this group icon, or you can just click Ctrl or Command G on the keyboard to create a group. So we're going to rename this group. We're going to name it frequency separation. So I'm going to abbreviate this so to frequency separation. So let's turn this on and off. You can see when you turn it on and off, there is no a difference between the initial image and the initial background image and our frequency separation group. So meaning we have successfully done or separated the image using frequency separation. So activate your frequency separation group. So you're going to drop down by clicking on this drop down icon, and you're going to first of all blend the transitions for our skin tones for this very image. Remember, our skin tones are usually on the color all frequency layer. So we're going to get our mixer brush tool, and we are going to first of all blend these areas that don't seem to have smooth transitions. You can see right here we don't have nice transitions between the skin tones, and you can see right here we don't have very nice transitions. And in order to see this, uh, just come to your texture or high frequency layer and come to the adjustments and create a black and white layer. So when you create that, we want to see where the skin tones are not perfectly transitioning really well. So come to the red channel, click right here and move it all the way down. So this by doing this, you'll see the areas that don't have smooth skin tone transitions in this image. So you can see those areas well. So click on your low frequency layer, and remember the skin tones are usually on this color or low frequency layer. Then come to right here and right click and look for your mixer brush tool in Photoshop. So this is the mixer brush tool. So what the mixer brush tool does, we're going to set it in a way that it is going to blend or mix these skin tones together. So we have selected our mixer brush tool. Then you can as well come to the brushes. If I told you mixer brush tool isn't under this section, right click under brushes and you get your mixer brush tool. So make sure it is a clean brush. So select clean brush. The reason for selecting this is because we want the brush to clean itself after each and every stroke on the image. Remember, it's like when you're painting and you want to apply a different color and you wouldn't want to distort the very existing color that was there. You have to first of all clean your brush. That is the reason that's why we have to select this option, clean brush, and make sure this right here is selected. Yeah, because we still want to the brush to clean itself after each and every stroke as it has been stated. Make sure you use a wetness of 10, and the reason for using the wetness of around 10% is because We want to retain as much skin texture as we can, and we wouldn't want to create a plastic image at the end of our retouching process. And make sure the load is 75%, the mix at 90, and the flow at 100%. Make sure sample all layers is not checked. Remember, we only want to work on this very layer. That's why we don't have to sample all layers. So make sure it is not checked. So we are going to zoom in a little bit to the face, and right now we can see those areas that don't have smooth transitions. So you're going to blend. So when you're blending or mixing these areas, make sure you mix the highlights alone, the midtones alone, and the shadows alone. So let's start doing that. So you can increase or decrease on your brush size by using the left and the right brackets on your keyboard. So let's blend. You can see we have some sort of midtones right here. You can see I'm mixing this particular area or blending it alone. So I'll skip that highlight and I'll come to these midtones and I'm going to blend them together. So as you're seeing, I'm coming to this where they are transitioning between the midtones and the highlights, and I'm going to kind of blend that particular area together. And I'm going to come to this highlight right here, and I'm going to try to blend it really well so that we can have nice and gentle transitions. You can see that, and when you are mixing, make sure you don't overdo it, because I'm going to show you where you are going to blend or fine tune the image for those areas you may have missed out when you're using the mixer brush tool. So stick around, then I'm going to share this secret with you guys. So let's blend here really well and nice. So I think we are done with the forehead part. You can see that. So let's see our progress. As usual, you have to turn off your black and white layer and see your progress for the image. So this is the before after, and if at all you feel you have done any areas, you can just come back and do the blending even more. So we're going to put back our black and white layer, and we're going to continue blending these skin tones together. So make sure you're selected on your color or frequency layer and just continue blending. So as you can notice, I haven't removed my blemishes yet, because the reason as to why I haven't done this is when you're using a mixer brush tool, it tends to flatten out most of the blemishes on the model skin. So when you reach that very step of removing the blemishes, you'll have less work to do. So that is basically my trick and my tip for the blemish removal. So just continue blending these particular areas, and you'll notice a change in your images when you start all perfect the use of the mixer brush tool for all your images and your retouching processes. So you can do this. Or the other trick for using a mixer brush tool, you can as well deactivate the texture layer. And if at all you don't want to create the black and white layer, so just imagine you don't have the black and white layer, you can as well deactivate the texture layer in your frequency separation group. And yeah, now just come and continue blending the skin tones well. So that is another trick for blending the image. So yeah, so you can look for what really works best for you for your images. So for me, I prefer to work with my black and white layer on, because it guides me and shows me where to mix and where not to mix. So as you can see, now we're going to come to the nose area, and we're going to blend or mix this shadow alone, and come to this other end and also blend this other area alone. And let's blend here too. And when you come to this highlight, you just mix it alone too. As you can see, the mixer brush tool is really powerful. So let's turn this off, and we see our progress so far for this image. So this is the before after. You can see how drastic it has transformed the image. So let's put back the black and white layer, and we continue blending. You should take your time with this step because it fine tunes your images. Yeah, so let's come down to the next area and we try to blend it too. I think that is fine. So let's see if at all we have some other areas to do the blending on. I think we are done using the mixer brush tool. Maybe a little bit of fine tuning on the chin area, and let's mix this other area right here. So you don't want to leave any skin tones untouched, so I think this is fine. So let's now we're going to use the second frequency separation method. The reason that's why I love combining these two methods is because where one wasn't perfected or applied well, the second method really fine tunes the image even more and gives you the best results out of your retouching, out of your images in Photoshop. So let's delete the black and white layer because right now we no longer need it. So hold down the black and white layer and drag it to the trash icon. So you can see the image already looks beautiful and amazing, but we really have to fine tune or make it more beautiful. Remember, this is more of a glam kind of retouching. So let's select our color hollow frequency layer, click on your lasso tool, and make sure you change the feathering to around 18 pixels because we want to get a nice feathered selection when we are selecting the areas of the skin. So this is like where I'm going to share with you guys my trick and what I really use to get the best skin textures out of my images and having that natural skin textures in all the images I do retouch. So we have selected our lasso tool right here, and the feathering is 18 pixels. So we're going to zoom in this time around and make a selection on the skin area. So make sure you make a really fine selection on the skin area of the model. So just make this fine selection. Remember, I'm desisting from selecting the eyebrows and the hair. I only need the skin. So I'll come back to filter and come to blur and come to Gaussian blur. So when you come to Gaussian blur, remember you have to move this slider until you get at the what you feel is the perfect skin tones for your image. So let's move this slider while looking here, of course, and let's move it until we find a perfect skin texture. I think at around 33.2 we have really a beautiful skin texture. So let me show you guys the trick. Remember our initial radius was 10 pixels. So the trick right here for getting the most perfect skin texture is when you multiply 10 by 3. This is what I found out. When you multiply 10 times 3, you get 30, and add 3 to the value, you get 33. So when you put 33 right here, so for whichever radius you may have used when you're doing a frequency separation, just multiply it by 3 and add 3 to the value you may have gotten. So click OK. So you're going to select the rest of the skin and apply our Gaussian blur method on the rest of the image. So select according to the shape of that particular area. So let's do this. So right click and apply the Gaussian blur, then select and apply the Gaussian blur. Right click and click on Gaussian blur. And for the areas you feel like the Gaussian blur is too much, the effect, so right click and apply it. So If at all you feel the effect is too much for your liking, click Shift Control F and you get this fade option, and you can reduce on the opacity of that effect. So that is how you reduce on the effect. So let's do this quickly because I don't want you guys to stay here for really long. So let's select according to the shape. As you can see, let's select, right click and apply Gaussian blur. And now let's come right down here above the lips of the model, right click, apply the Gaussian blur, and let's apply the effect this side too. So you can see how beautiful the image is really getting transformed to. So let's also apply the effect on the nose area because we wouldn't want to leave out some particular area. As you can see, my shapes are according to the shape of that area I'm trying to select. So right click and apply Gaussian blur. So basically this is what I do for my images. So I think this is really fine and beautiful. So you can see this is the before after. The image has really been transformed in a more beautiful way. So we are going to remove the blemishes from our image, and remember the blemishes, like I'd said, the blemishes are usually on the texture layer. So if at all I turn off my color layer, you can see all the blemishes vividly in this image. So let's click on the color layer and activate it. So make sure you're selected on the texture layer right here, and we're going to use our spot healing brush to remove these blemishes. So make sure it is bigger than the blemish you're trying to remove. So and make sure it is the normal spot healing brush tool. So come to normal and select normal. So make sure it is bigger than the blemish you're trying to remove from the image. So let's increase by using the left and right brackets on the keyboard. So let's just dab over the blemishes we want to remove, or you can as well use the clone stamp tool for removing the blemishes from your images. So let me show you guys how the clone stamp tool works. So you get your clone stamp tool. Remember, it is a normal clone stamp tool. The opacity at 100 and the flow 100. And remember, you're working from your current layer. So increase on your clone stamp by using the right bracket on the keyboard. So sample from a clean area by holding down the Alt button and clicking on a clean area and just uh, removing that particular blemish from that area. So sample from a clean area by clicking Alt and clicking on that area and just painting over the area you want to clean or remove the blemish from. So basically that is how the clone stamp works, and it really provides you with the best results from your retouching. And so that is how we do remove blemishes using the clone stamp tool in Photoshop. So we can come and get back our spot healing brush tool and just dab over these simple blemishes in order to fasten our blemish removal process. So let's do this quickly and select these particular areas. So I think we are done with removing most of the blemishes from our beautiful image. So right now we have successfully retouched this image. So what is remaining is the color grading and global dodging and burning. So basically, what is global dodging and burning? Remember, we have lost out some of the beautiful facial structures in this image. So what global dodging and burning is all about, it brings back the shape and dimensions to our images in Photoshop. So come to your adjustment layer and click on curves. So when you click on curves, first of all, the very first layer is we have first of all brighten. Make a midpoint and drag up, you brighten. So in order to hide this effect, click Control I or Command I. Make sure this right here is selected. Click Control or Command I to hide that effect. So remember, when you are dodging, we dodge the highlights, and when we are burning, we burn the shadows. So remember, this is our dodge layer. So we're going to come and we make a second curves adjustment layer, make a midpoint, and this time you're going to darken that. So make sure white is selected. So we are going to hide this effect. Control I on the keyboard. So we're going to name this other layer a burn. So that is fine. Click enter, and we're going to select the two layers and put them in a group. Control G, and we are going to name this layer, this group, sorry, dodge and burn. So when you name this dodge and burn, you can as well open it. And now, in order to see where to dodge and where to burn really well, remember what we did for a frequency separation. We are going to come and create a black and white layer on top of our burn layer. So click on black and white, and now we are going to darken that so you can see. So remember, frequency separation kind of darkened our, it kind of flattened our image. So what we're going to do, we are going to deactivate it by clicking on the eye icon to deactivate the frequency separation group in order to see where the highlights and the shadows were initially. So let's click on the dodge layer and make sure white is on top. Make sure white is on top. You can just toggle by clicking here, or getting it back to the default by clicking on these two boxes right here. Get your brush tool, and for the settings, make sure the opacity is at around 10% and the flow at 100. So we are going to be revealing the effect we had hidden right here using, remember, white reveals and black hides. So that's why we are using a white brush to reveal the effect we had hidden for the dodge layer. So let's increase on the brush size. So we are going to dodge. Remember, when we are dodging, we dodge the highlights, and when we are burning, we burn the shadows. So let's dodge this highlight right here. Then let's come to the chin area and we dodge there too. And let's increase and dodge here too, because we want to enhance those facial structures really well. So let's come to the burn, and we burn these areas. So we have her cheekbones. So let's try to enhance them even more. And let's come to the nose area and we enhance these shadows right here. I think we have done a nice job. So let's activate our frequency separation group and turn off the black and white layer to see what we have done for our dodging and burning. So you can see this is a before after, before after. We have brought back shape and dimension to our image. So let's delete the black and white layer. So what is next? We are going to do a little bit of color grading for this image, and we are going to be using selective color in Photoshop. So click right here and come to selective color and come to the red channel. So we're going to add a little bit of science. So when you move this way, you add science to the image, and when you move it up, you add greens to the image. So we're going to add science to around -9, and you're going to come to the yellow channel, and you're going to add a little bit of yellows to the image, because I would like this image to really be somehow warm. And you're going to come to the blacks in the reds, and you're going to intensify them too. I think that is fine. So we're going to come to the blacks, and we want to intensify the blacks in this image. So come to the black in blacks and pull it up a little bit around 3. Then we're going to come to the brightness and contrast, and you're going to add a little bit of legacy to this portrait. And before we can do that, we can as well come back to selective color and come this to the white channel, and we can remove the whites from the image. You can see when you turn this up, you intensify the whites, and when you turn it all the way up, you remove the whites. So let's remove them a little bit. So we're going to come to the brightness and contrast, So click on brightness and contrast and activate use legacy, and we're going to add a little bit of contrast to this beautiful image to around 5. I think we are done with the color grading for this very image. So what is left is uh, we can do a little bit of eye whitening, but the eyes already look amazing. I wouldn't support or do anything about her eyes. Her eyes are already looking beautiful and amazing. So let's group everything we did for the color grading. Control G, and we're going to name this color grading. So let's see everything we did for this image. So this tutorial has been about frequency separation and all the secrets and the tips for all your frequency separation and skin retouching in Photoshop. So we did skin retouching first of all using frequency separation, whereby we created the frequency separation group and layers, and we used the mixer brush tool to blend the skin tones. Then later on we went ahead to use the lasso tool method to fine tune the image and get back those amazing skin tones in the areas that we had missed out when we are using the mixer brush tool. Then we did global dodging and burning to bring back shape and dimension to the image. Remember, frequency separation most of the times kind of flattens the image, so that's why we did the dodging and burning on this image. Then after we did the color grading for this image, you can see before, after, before, after. So this tutorial has been about frequency separation and all the secrets in Photoshop. And if at all you love this tutorial, don't forget to like this video and don't forget to comment in the comment section, and don't forget to subscribe if at all you have just landed on this video from this channel from the very first time. And this image was taken by Fred Shot It, and I'm going to put his Instagram link in the description of this video so that you guys can check him out. He is an amazing photographer, and I'm Ronix from Ronix Photography. Thank you for watching. Till next time.